Yes,
I'm
you
a
did.
Muslim. I abide my rules.
Doesn't matter what you are.
This is
Doesn't
my
matter.
religion. No, never.
Bollocks.
This is not allowed.
Bollocks.
No.
Bollocks.
This is our religion.
Bollocks.
My religion. My religion.
Ignored by those who are supposed to represent and protect them. Ignored and abandoned. Thrown to the wolves in pursuit of some sick, multicultural experiment that is being forced on our people.
Allowing people to come into Britain on those boats is directly endangering the safety of women and children in our country. I think it's disgusting.
If you have to hide the truth from British people because the truth would risk them rioting, maybe you want to think long and hard about the obscene and treacherous policy choices that have got us to this point.
Silence. Complete and utter silence. Gary Lineker, who you'll remember couldn't shut up. He could not shut up about the apparent human rights abuses against children in Gaza, has not said a word, not one word, about the invading animals to his own country who are now attacking and raping young English girls in town centres on an industrial scale. Well, Tommy Robinson has today challenged the human rights hypocrite, writing, "Care to comment on this post, Gary Lineker?" Of course, absolutely no response. That post revealed details of the crime which has shaken patriots up and down this country to our very core. But sadly, we know this is something that parents of virtually all girls fear because of the regularity of these atrocities. This one, though, has, I think, stuck, and we're feeling it deep because of the deep state attempt to cover up the reality that two Afghan illegals who invaded our country on small boats, Jan Johanzeb and Isra Nihazal, who both lied and said they were 17, then brutally raped a British 15-year-old in a Leamington Park as she begged passers-by for help. The footage we just saw from the Daily Mail shows these two cretins strutting around the same Midlands Park the next day without a care in the world. So this crime, which has horrified the nation, is totally ignored by the Lineker elite class. Do you know it didn't get one mention at PMQs today? It isn't leading mainstream news bulletins. But Rupert Lowe of Restore Britain burst the bubble of the consensus of silence in one of the most powerful speeches I have heard in Parliament in recent years because of the horror of what he was describing and the ignorance of our so-called leaders who refuse to do anything about it.
Immigration and its impact on our country is simply not understood in this Parliament, nor do most members even care. British people are genuinely scared. I am contacted by dozens and dozens of women who genuinely fear for their lives, and they feel ignored by this place. Ignored by those who are supposed to represent and protect them. Ignored and abandoned. Thrown to the wolves in pursuit of some sick, multicultural experiment that is being forced on our people. "You're going to rape me," the girl cried as she was dragged away. She screamed for help and begged not to be taken. One of the migrants gagged her with his hand. The Afghan men forced her to perform sex acts in a secluded area. She is heard screaming for help. She calls for her friends. She wants to go home. She's pleading for help from passers-by. None came. Can you imagine her horror, her fear, her desperation? Think if it was your daughter. How would that make you feel? Honestly, think about that.
Honestly, think about that. And as patriots, we do. Nigel Farage followed up today with his own video.
So a 15-year-old girl is raped by two young Afghan males, one age 16, one age 17, that have come into Britain by boat. The defence in court is they come from a different culture that doesn't recognise that women should be out free to walk the streets. I, folks, have been saying this for years, and the Conservative and Labour parties allowing people to come into Britain on those boats is directly endangering the safety of women and children in our country. I think it's disgusting. I think we need change. And frankly, I think Starmer and the rest of them haven't got the guts to stand up for you.
His fellow Reform UK man Zia Youssef made the point that the judge in this case was actually more concerned about the impact of this crime on other illegals rather than the young English girls who are the actual victims.
It's telling that the defense lawyer for the Afghan rapist pleaded with the judge not to release the identity of the rapist because he said doing so would risk social disorder. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? If you have to hide the truth from British people because the truth would risk them rioting, maybe you want to think long and hard about the obscene and treacherous policy choices that have got us to this point. And a special mention to the judge who took the Afghan rapist to task, not for brutalizing the poor victim, not for breaking into the country illegally, no. The judge scolded the Afghan rapist because he had betrayed other illegal migrants. Just think about that. According to him, the shame the rapist should feel for raping a 15-year-old girl is for letting down other illegal migrants.
But Lawrence Fox wasn't having any of that from the Reform UK head of strategy, writing the same Zia Youssef who tried to destroy Rupert Lowe's life for proposing similar. That Zia Youssef. Reform aren't going to change anything. Just fakers sat at the grown-ups table. Britain is being invaded. Our children are being raped. Words don't cut it anymore. And they don't, I agree. I mean, we are too far gone for words. But what is interesting to me is that I'm seeing some members of the elite class start to think, holy shit, what have we done? I mean, trust me, there is a crisis of confidence right now happening at James O'Brien's LBC, where his fellow presenters are starting to realise what their main man has created.
So someone arrives here and they can't even attempt to tell us their birthday. We have to give them the birthday, the 1st of January. That seems incredible. So the elder of the two, who seems to have been the leader of the rape, will face being deported. But as Luke Shanahan just explained, because the younger of the two missed pleading guilty one day before turning 17, makes him one day too young to qualify. His barrister in court made the suggestion that would allow the younger of the rapists to make a life for himself in this country when he is eventually released. I should tell you that counsel in both cases argued that the video should not be made available, and it will not be made available to the public, and I understand that. I'd have no desire to see that. But also they argued that it shouldn't be made known that they were asylum seekers who arrived from Afghanistan on a boat. Why don't we have the right to know that?
But Ferrari is actually wrong about the video because it doesn't show the rape. It shows the emotional aftermath. And I believe with the victim's permission, it is something we need to see. Remember, the reason we haven't been shown it is because of fears that we might riot. Another caller at James O'Brien's LBC, who no doubt is a fan of their main man, tried to blame the white English girls themselves. Watch.
We need to give more education on our young girls because our young girls approach these foreign guys, and
so it's up to the
when their
girls.
friends start laughing at them,
It's up to the girls to not approach people who they think might be foreign.
Let's not get into a situation where we pull ourselves and get ourselves into trouble. That's my point. But my other point is, let's also
there's a
educate our
15-year-old girl
locals.
drinking vodka. Yep, she's drinking vodka with her friend. She gets separated from her friend, and these two individuals take her off into Woodland.
That part is wrong. That I totally don't
So
agree
what's that
with.
girl meant to... And this is what this... Oh, God. What is that girl meant to... Now, don't laugh, you despicable man.
No, it's the...
Why are you
the sign that
blaming a 15-year-old girl for her
I'm
own
not
rape?
blaming her. I'm not blaming her.
Well, why are you
saying
asking
is,
her to take responsibility for her
I'm
own
not
sexual
saying
assault?
What I'm saying, Tom, don't get me wrong here. What I'm saying is that we need to get ourselves out of these situations.
She asked for help.
And this is the problem. This is what your station and James O'Brien have created. Because I want to show you this other new video where a man accused of a crime says that his Islam faith operates above our British laws.
I'm a Muslim. I buy my rules.
Doesn't matter what you are.
This is
Doesn't
my
matter.
religion. No, never.
Bollocks.
This is not allowed.
Bollocks.
No.
Bollocks.
This is our religion.
Bollocks.
My religion. My religion. Tell
You're,
me.
are you in this country on a like you're not here permanently, are you? You're on a visa.
Yeah.
You're going fucking back and all. You ain't fucking nonsense our kids. And he actually lunged for the security's throat. We've been here 3 times for him. Let's see who the embassy's in trouble with now then, eh? Leave our kids alone.
But that guy may have been caught. How many others aren't? And you can't argue with the statistics. Okay, half of you watching this are not subscribed to Dan Wootton Outspoken, and the best way you can support what we do is by hitting that subscribe button. It is completely free, and turn on the notification bell to be alerted to our new episodes.
What did you just say about rape and sexual crimes last year? 25%, a quarter of them, yes? You have this information, were carried out by foreign criminals, in effect, people coming into this country, yes?
In 2024, yes, and that is, of course, just those crimes for which individuals were convicted, and we know that there are very low conviction rates, and that doesn't take into account the smaller end of that spectrum, actually, the sort of the heckling, the catcalling.
One of the big issues we've got, though, is that truly bad actors like Jonathan Liss on the hard left are given a platform on GB News to obfuscate. This desperate bid, for some reason, involved bringing up church sex abuse scandals from the past.
I think that we have to put all of this into perspective. And Patrick, I did find it offensive what you said a second ago about directly linking Islam to this, to these crimes. Are we going to have an inquiry into the abuse of Catholic priests, in which we try and establish a link between sort of paedophilia and the Catholic and the Catholic?
Make excuses for
I'm not. I'm saying that I think we have to be consistent.
That's how it might come across.
No, well, I'm saying that if that would have been grossly offensive, if someone had said at the time of the paedophile priest scandal, which was a huge scandal,
I don't think. I tell you what I would have said at the time.
Yet again, a lefties whose anger is at the language of patriots rather than the actual crimes being committed against young English girls. Now, the Daily Express and the Daily Mail, 2 newspapers, finally woke up today. I would argue it was 5 years too late. But I do want to give credit to this powerful front page missive from their star columnist Sarah Vine, who wrote, "I don't care if I'm accused of scaremongering or worse. Facts are facts. A horror is unfolding before our very eyes, and it is time to confront some hard truths. I am perfectly aware that Britain has its fair share of homegrown predators, but men like Wayne Couzens, who raped and murdered Sarah Everard, are rightly reviled, despised, and harshly dealt with. I am also perfectly aware that there are plenty of genuine asylum seekers who need our help and who, if offered it, become law-abiding and productive members of our society. But that is not who we are talking about here, and a refusal to acknowledge that these scumbags exist is a big part of the problem. Indeed, in far too many cases, there seems to be an army of lawyers and bleeding heart liberals only too keen to excuse their actions, or even, unbelievably, to suggest that the victims were somehow deserving of their ordeal. She was underage drinking, she was out late at night, blah, blah, you know the story. In one case, defence lawyers claimed the accused had not been educated about the cultural differences between the UK and his native Afghanistan. In another case, lawyers claimed a Syrian perpetrator was suffering from severe and chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, and that jailing him would amount to a violation of his human rights. Ah, right. And what about the PTSD of the person he raped? In the latest case of the 15-year-old schoolgirl, the barrister representing the younger of the 2 rapists argued against his deportation on the grounds that he should be allowed to make a life for himself in this country when he is eventually released. What? As a reward for having destroyed that of his victim? Unbelievable. How could he or she even countenance such a thing? As for the threat of jail, that's hardly a deterrent. Doing time in a British jail is the equivalent of an extended stay in a holiday camp for most of these men. If they are Muslim, even more so, since they get all sorts of special privileges and exemptions. Alex Phillips also wrote powerfully on this. Let me be absolutely clear. Some of these men coming from the Middle East as illegals are doing so for sex. They want to leave their countries where women wear hijabs and burqas. They want sex. Sex with fair-haired women. Sex with women who have no morals. Sex with as many women as possible. Sex with girls that look like the porn stars they pleasure themselves to. Sex with silly drunk girls who degrade themselves with alcohol. Sex with feral females who don't cover their bodies and may be taken as slaves. Sex with the daughters of evil Western men who deserve to see their girls abused. Sex with the hordes of girls who party and don't respect themselves. They regard these girls as whores, a candy shop they get to come and raid in a way they couldn't back at home. These men are rape tourists. They are. And that's why we keep making far too many excuses in Islamist Britain. I mean, look at this from the Daily Telegraph. A teacher banned from working with children after saying that Britain was a Christian country. And this came after these Islamic students were attempting to wash their feet in the sink of the school, which clearly is just not acceptable in our culture. The problem is that the man our elite class hate more than anyone else is one of the only men in the world who is actually prepared to call out what is happening, not just here in the United Kingdom, but across Europe and across all of the West. Step forward, Donald Trump.
But I hate what's happened to London, and I hate what's happened to Paris. I hate when I see it.
You know, sir, it's sometimes hard to tell when you say these things. Do you intend to send kind of a message of tough love to our allies to push them to make reforms, or do you think that many of them are just weak and you don't really want to be allies with them?
I think they're weak, but I also think that they want to be so politically correct. I think they don't know what to do. Europe doesn't know what to do. They don't know what to do on trade either. I mean, I look at a lot of the trade, situation that's going on over there. It's a little bit dangerous, but Europe, they want to be politically correct, and it makes them weak. That's what makes them weak.
It sounds like you want to see some pretty massive changes.
Well, I think they should get the people out that came into the country illegally.
I want to ask about NATO.
If you take a look at Sweden, so Sweden was known as the safest country in Europe, one of the safest countries in the world. Now it's known as a very unsafe, pretty unsafe country. It's not even believable. It's a whole different country, Sweden.
That blockbuster interview also saw him directly accuse London's Islamist mayor Sadiq Khan. Watch.
But most European nations, they're decaying. They're decaying.
You can imagine some leaders in Europe are a little freaked out by what your posture is, and European.
No, they should be freaked out by what they're doing to their countries. They're destroying their countries.
Well, European Council President.
And they're people I like. Look, they're people I like. I get along with them. You know that. But they can't let this happen. And it gets to a point where you can't really correct it. There'll be a point, and it's very close to that point.
And what will that mean?
It will mean that they're no longer going to be strong nations.
Does that mean they won't be allies
Or
anymore?
they'll be, it depends, it depends. They'll change their ideology, obviously, because the people coming in have a totally different ideology. But it's going to make them much weaker. They'll be much weaker, and they'll be much different.
And what will that mean for our relationship
look at
with
your mayor
them?
of London. He's a disaster. He's a disaster. He's got a totally different ideology of what he's supposed to have. And he gets elected because so many people have come in and they vote for him now.
Of course, that interview has caused the elite class morons like Kay Burley and Ian Dale to use their hatred of Trump to try and excuse Sadiq Khan's destruction of London.
This is one of the great places in the world, and they're allowing people just to come in and unchecked, unvetted.
I don't feel unsafe when I'm walking the streets of London. Yes, we have crime in London, just as any big city does. But is it really any worse than New York or Detroit or Chicago? My message to Donald Trump is look after your own backyard before you start insulting ours, because London has its problems, but it is not this city racked with crime that you and your colleagues, J.D. Vance being another one of them, try to make out. And I, for one, am sick of it.
You're a liar, Ian Dale. What you should be sick of, by the way, is the rapes and the murders and the terror in London. Not Donald Trump pointing out the rapes and the murders and the terror. Now, Yvette Cooper had to make this embarrassing defence of Khan. But first, a reality check. Data leaks aren't a once-in-a-while story anymore. They're constant and they're massive. When a mega breach hits, millions of people's details spill at once. Phone numbers, home addresses, even sensitive stuff. Worse, that data doesn't fade away. Data brokers and people search sites buy and resell it endlessly. So scammers, stalkers, even curious employers of your future can pull up your life within a quick search. That's why I use Incogni. In a murky industry, Incogni is the proof-driven service independently verified by Deloitte to request removals from hundreds of broker sites and private databases, follow up repeatedly, and log the confirmations as they come in. Here's how simple it is. Create your account and share only what's needed to find your exposed profiles. Authorize Incogni once, just once, to act on your behalf. They start the takedowns and keep chasing so your data doesn't creep back online ever. And the power feature custom removals on the unlimited plan if you spot your info anywhere, so court portals, company directories, people search pages, drop that exact link into your dashboard. Incogni's privacy team then takes it on beyond the automated list. Unlimited links handled by specialists. It's low effort, it's effective, and it gives you real peace of mind. They can't target you if they can't find you. So don't wait for the next breach. Head to incogni.com/outspoken right now and get 60% off an annual plan. That's incogni.com/outspoken. Protect yourself, your family, and your future. But now, back to the show.
I see in Europe is strength, and the strength and commitment to the support Ukraine, and also strength to step up to the plate and to ensure that we are increasing our investment in defence, and also making sure that we are doing our bit through the coalition of the willing, as well as through investment in the military support and the energy infrastructure support that Ukraine needs. And then, obviously, when it comes to the Mayor of London, you would not be surprised to know I, of course, take a strongly different view, and I think the Mayor is doing an excellent job for the people of London.
But they know that's not true, they know that's not true, and they know the Prime Minister's not doing a good job either. So the rats in Labour are circling slippery Starmer. As anyone sane in the party acknowledges, he is finished as Prime Minister.
Historical measures, absolutely beyond unpopular. I think, Ricketts is probably more popular than Keir Starmer at the moment. This is about political survival. People have, in number 10 and otherwise, have to look beyond factionalism. Do you want your biggest legacy to deliver a reform government? Is that what you want your legacy to be? Because at the moment, we have halved our poll rating since election day 2024. It was very much loveless anyway, but we are now currently on average around 18%. Those numbers historically are, you do not turn round those sorts of numbers. That is not going to happen. And whether people like it or not...
You don't think they can come back from that?
Not under this Prime Minister. No chance. He is the... Do you know the thing my brother said, actually, who watches the news but isn't quite political geeks like us? He said the thing he always picks up on is no one likes him. Either people are ambivalent, because, again, people don't really know what Labour stands for at the moment. They certainly don't know what Keir stands for, and they see his authenticity shine through. Or they go, I can't stand him. Nobody has, I really like him. I've never met anybody. Everybody hates him. And when you're in a position like that, you have to change the captain at the top, unfortunately.
Yeah, so they are destroying our country, and all they care about is trying to save their own skin. So these political parlour games have seen the Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham now becoming the main rival to Red Angela Rayner. And today he just admitted that he does want the top job.
You can end the speculation today if you said, I don't want to be Prime Minister, but you choose not to do that.
I mean, I'm not putting my name in those surveys, and kind of Westminster does what it does, and I get often
drawn in without being involved in it all.
The temptation must be there.
The thing is, though, it's not my call either. I'm not an MP. I can't stand in a leadership race. It's not for me. It would
Clive
be
Lewis
for
mentioned he'd give up
other
his seat
people
for you.
in Westminster, wouldn't it, to decide? And whether I want to support the government. I'm here to make a success of this Labour government, and I don't know if people there think I could have a role in that in any capacity, and I mean in any capacity when I say that. Then of course, if the call came, I'm not going to, just turn away from it. But I want the government to succeed.
Oh, no, you don't. What a mess. What a total mess. But guess what the political class want to talk about? Guess what they want to talk about? Not the mass rape of English girls, not the collapse of this socialist government. No, they want to talk about the return of masks. Watch.
Or someone has been hit by flu recently, you're probably not surprised to hear hospitals across the country have been forced to declare critical incidents as cases soar.
So it's so bad it's been called the super flu, and in what you could say is a pretty unwelcome flashback to the COVID pandemic days. Some schools are actually now locking down to try and stop the spread. Well, Brian Guthrie is a head teacher at County Londonderry School, where more than 170 kids were off sick in one day.
Seriously, fuck off. Fuck off, you assholes. Never again. Never again are we going to go there. No way. Don't even think about it. But of course, people are already being told to stay at home. I just heard from one of my friends in Scotland who said that all in-person work is now off, which is really not going to help our productivity. LBC's Ben Kentish, though, part of this loser metropolitan elite, actually blasted Kemi Badenoch as stupid for saying she was traumatised by the memory of face nappies during COVID, as she attacked Downing Street, encouraging people to get back into the habit of mask wearing. That LBC lunatic who we saw earlier, Ian Dale, replied saying, "I'm buying more." This is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with. Seriously. Complete idiots running the show. But I want to give the final word to Peter Blexley, who sums up in 53 seconds why it's this type of madness consigning Slippery Starmer to go down as the most unpopular Prime Minister ever.
And look at Starmer. He ducked the question. He absolutely ducked the question.
He ducks the question.
He is such a coward of such monumental proportions that he will not speak for Britain. And this is why there are chants at football matches very derogatory about him. It's why people paint bridges with derogatory slogans about him.
Not very nice,
he is the most unpopular Prime Minister, I would suggest, that we have ever had, because he will not stand up for Britain and the British. He wants to appease everybody else, and in his socialist manner, he is leading this country down with what they call social mobility to make us all as skint as one another and destroy everything, whether it be the Christian faith or Victoria Sponge.
Now, the Superstar Panel. Emma Kenny and Father Calvin Robinson with me. Father Calvin, I've only slightly calmed down from this crime being revealed yesterday. I was sickened by the fact that for so long the deep state, the judiciary had been able to cover it all up, and the mainstream media was just describing these animals, these Afghan illegals, as two boys from Leamington. But it feels like, Father Calvin, something has changed in the way that we are looking at these crimes now. And it doesn't matter in a way that it's being ignored by the mainstream media, that it's being ignored by Gary Lineker, because the British population are saying enough.
Yeah, but what's going to happen with that? What are they going to do? Nothing. I didn't know there was a Leamington in Afghanistan, which is shocking to me. They're clearly not boys from Leamington. But, if they are found guilty of raping this young girl, they should be hanged and or deported. Those are the only two acceptable options. But nothing will happen because our judiciary is corrupt. Our establishment is corrupt. Doesn't matter how unhappy the British public get. Nothing is going to be done about it. We're going to continue to have our young girls groomed and raped and abused continuously until people are willing to take action.
Emma Kenny, you're obviously someone who has campaigned against sex abuse in all of its forms for so many years. But this case the details were just horrifying. Like, obviously, every sex abuse case is horrifying, right? But I think it struck at something that we're all feeling, a fear of our girls going out, but then also the fear of what's happening to our society, Emma, in that there were other women who were in the vicinity and did not stop to help. And I've seen a lot of women criticize these people, Emma, but weirdly, I understand it, because what do we tell our young girls and our women? If you're near trouble, run, get away, because we don't want our mums and our sisters being stabbed to death either. So unfortunately, I think this is a crime which has almost summed up lots of aspects in terms of the downfall of our society.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the bystander interaction situation playing out where people just don't want to get involved. They think somebody else will do. You've also got a lot of the norms that are being created in society where you're not allowed to offend anyone and that we can't be nasty to anybody who's come potentially from another country. And so you've got that bias playing out and people are thinking, well, can I intervene? Should I intervene? That's a big weight right now that's in our society. You say anything against illegal crossings, you say anything about people coming over and committing 20 times more sexual offences than somebody who, for example, is white or black British, that is something that is going to get your head cut off, basically, on social media. So the reality is that people are feeling oppressed with their views. And Calvin's right. The problem you've got there is so much of an entrenched belief system now within our society that you are absolutely offending the world around you if you dare to speak out about these things, that it's playing into this system where kids can get raped and nobody does anything about it. And I was working with kids from the original grooming gangs. You know, we're going back a very long time now. We're going back 2 decades. And the truth is, I still have contact with some of them. And the impact from being ignored, the impact from being made to feel that they were the problem, they were the ones who created it because they dared to hang out in that situation, or they came from a vulnerable home, they were the problem, it's victim blaming. That was very much embedded and entrenched them. And we're dealing with the same particular minority groups that are causing these issues now. And when you think about, particularly from Afghanistan, for example, we've got the actual male patriarchy existing there, the Taliban in charge, women are second-class citizens. So why are we surprised that when people come here, they just see any white girl in particular, although this has affected Sikh girls heavily as well, we actually see that they just see them as ripe for the picking and no one's going to help. Because you know what? That's what 20 years of history has taught us. Nobody did.
And look at that man in that video in the digest who actually argues to those British women, no, my Islamic faith bypasses your British laws. That is actually what they believe. Father Calvin Robinson, I really think Tommy Robinson was right to call out Lineker today. I describe it as the Lineker elite class. I mean, Calvin, we heard from him on a daily basis when it came to Gaza, okay, and the human rights atrocities that he claimed were going on in Gaza. It was constant. It was consistent. We never, ever hear him stand up for white English girls being raped on an industrial scale, Father Calvin, presumably because it doesn't fit his political ideology?
Yeah, I mean, the woke religion has a certain set of values, and one of those values is diversity, inclusion, and equality. And so they're never going to speak out against anything that undermines that. And speaking out against grooming gangs or against illegal immigrants raping British girls does undermine that, because it proves the point that diversity is not our strength. It actually weakens us and hurts us, quite literally. But the problem is, I don't know why the right keeps doing this, pointing out the hypocrisy of the left. The left do not care about their hypocrisy. They have their belief structure, and they don't care that we don't share it. We care about what's good versus what's evil. They care about what makes them look good versus what makes them look bad. That's it. We can point all day and say, Gary Lineker, you don't talk about this, that, and the other. He doesn't care.
Emmy, you agree?
Yeah, I think it's really sad, but it's really true. I think that some people see themselves as politically superior in their perspective, and anything that infringes on that reality, i.e. common sense, logic, facts isn't going to get heard. So I'm afraid it is now just about people who are central to right fighting really hard to refuse for this to carry on. And until that happens, until we loudly revolt against this system and actually do something practical about this, I think the chances are this is going to continue and become more entrenched and more problematic, because we're seeing that day in and day out. And in Bolton, not far away from where I was brought up, at the weekend, another man's been arrested for the rape of 2 teenage girls. Again, similar situation. Haven't been found guilty yet, but strong likelihood they will be. And this is a day in, day out situation now. And the problem that I've got is that we've done so much damage in making people feel that you can't call this out. We've done so much damage saying that you're racist. If you, for example, say, well, I don't actually want people illegally coming over and actually from cultures that are not the same as the Western culture that they need to become part of and they're not willing to become part of. That is deeply problematic, because it means that you've created this silence of so many who are festering with that feeling, but not knowing where to go with it. And until we have strong leadership who can take us to that place, Calvin's right. They don't care, and nothing's going to change.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.